A Tuesday edition, even though it still feels like a Monday to me. I've been making that mistake all day, calling it Monday. I'm sure people like Fortune can relate.
I cannot relate.
Congratulations. Come
Good
and be going.
afternoon.
Come and be going to your house. All right. This is the time of the day where we get into some of the biggest stories in the headlines. And we're going to be cutting across today from power all the way to the elections and everything that has to do with it as it concerns 2027. My name is Somi. That's Somi, short for Apena Somi. And I will be your host for today, all the way up until 7 p.m. as usual. Good to have you here. I hope we've been having quite the time across all the shows, from the morning crossfire to what's happening at Abuja and on the sunny side. Always such a delight to hear Dion trying to meander his way around afternoon conversations, being so used to the nighttime. But I'm sure you enjoyed the conversation with him as well. Fortune here dishing out advice. Well done.
Yes, we're supporting women.
even when they are doing dirty.
Miss Somi, I just told him to have a conversation with her. Talk to her.
Okay.
And if she has made up her mind, fine, you can do your thing.
It's okay. You tried. Well done. All right. So it is time for us to get back into it, and we are going to be looking at some of the biggest stories. Like I said earlier on, we'll do that from now up until about 4:30 when we have guests come in. Did you know that today is World Health Day? Incidentally, it is also the day that the National Association of Resident Doctors are going on strike. We're going to be marrying those two in our conversation on the health and lifestyle segment from 5 p.m. today. We're going to have guests join us with a focus on World Health Day and what Nigeria can do better to improve the health of its citizens. That will be the conversation for the 5 o'clock hour when we're done with our guests from 4:30, and then from 6 to 7 we hand the mic back to you to hear on all the matters that are bothering you, perhaps that we hadn't already touched on. Okay, so let's get into it. This actually was a conversation we started yesterday evening. Well, people were complaining about the power situation, and I had dropped it very brief summary on the 3.3 trillion naira payment by the federal government to sort out the power sector. I've got more information around that one, as I think it was about a week or 2 weeks ago that I was supposed to have a guest on the show to also provide more insight into the whole dynamics of the power value chain in Nigeria. Well, the Daily Trust put out a report that brings more insight and more context to that conversation, and then from there we'll be x-raying and analyzing just what this 3.3 trillion naira payment will do, if at all. So let's get started with that one. I did mention yesterday, and it is indeed confirmed, that the federal government has approved a plan to settle long-standing debts owed across Nigeria's power sector, and officials have described this as a critical step towards stabilizing the country's fragile electricity value chain. Now, in case you are not aware of what this legacy debt is, a brief history, and then we'll come back to what some other critics are saying and then open the phone lines for you. Basically, legacy debt refers to the federal government's financial obligations to power generation companies, that is GenCos, with the Nigerian electricity supply industry, which is NESI. And this agreement spans 2015 to March 2025. That is 10 years exactly, even though it has tied, and we are currently in the 11th year. And the liabilities are apparently stemming from unpaid subsidies used to cushion electricity tariffs for consumers after power was privatized. So we started with the privatization of power, and with that, some unpaid subsidies, that all of that contributing to what we're seeing as the liability today. Now, the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, that is NBET, I'm sure some of you, especially late last year, started to hear of that word. Well, they are the intermediary through which the government absorbed part of the cost to keep electricity affordable. Now, legacy debt, therefore, according to this report, is not a single liability, but a build-up of years of underpayments embedded within the Nigerian electricity supply industry. Nigeria's electricity sector has grappled with persistent liquidity crisis since the privatization in 2013. And at the heart of this problem is said to be a structural imbalance, which is the cost of generating and delivering electricity consistently exceeds the revenue collected from consumers. I'm going to say that again. The structural imbalance that has bedeviled the Nigerian electricity sector since it was privatized, according to this report, is that the cost of generating and delivering electricity consistently exceeds the revenue collected from customers. So just going by that statement alone, the implication is that we are not paying enough to meet up with what is being generated and what is being delivered. Electricity tariffs have remained largely non-cost reflective, while distribution companies struggle with inefficiencies in metering, billing, and revenue collection. And this mismatch has also contributed to the chronic funding gaps that we see in the sector. And so to cushion consumers, the government, through NBET, which again is the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, absorbed part of the cost via subsidies and payment assurances. And over time, these unpaid obligations accumulated and cascaded across the value chain, leaving generation companies and gas suppliers significantly underpaid. That is pretty much a summary of what we are seeing in terms of this legacy debt. 10 years and counting of a critical funding gap contributed to by, lack of payment of subsidies and the mismatch in terms of generation and delivery vis-a-vis what is being paid by stakeholders. Now, industry stakeholders stress that the debt comprises a complex bundle of contractual liabilities rather than simple unpaid invoices. And these include payments for electricity generated and supplied, capacity charges for power made available but not utilized, and also what is termed deemed capacity cost tied to contractual commitments. A lot of foreign English inside that one, but long story short is that when you put all these elements together, there is a complexity to the liabilities that the government is seeking to resolve with the 3.3 trillion naira. Now, while we're trying to wrap our heads around all of that, I remember when we were having a conversation about this yesterday, Mr. Fadipe made mention of some sort of agreement and sort of an understanding of what exactly this 3.3 trillion naira will be sorting out. Well, the GENCOs are also coming out to dispute the government's figures because while the federal government verified 3.3 trillion naira, operators insist that total outstanding obligations hover around 4 trillion naira, and this includes 2 trillion naira in accumulated debts over the years and alongside an additional 2 trillion naira in unpaid subsidies for 2024 alone. So, when you look at the 3.3 trillion naira that the government said, and it's in a statement yesterday that is the full and final settlement, the GENCOs are saying there's something not quite adding up. Joy Ogaji, Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Power Generating Companies, questioned both the methodology and the timing of the announced payment. In an interview, she recalled an earlier development in which 4 trillion naira was approved last year, July 2025, following a reconciliation exercise involving key stakeholders. And in her words, is this 3.3 trillion naira different from the 4 trillion naira that the president approved in 2025, or is this an additional one? And for her to be asking this question, we are also left with the question of how is this something that is coming up now? Because if I remember in the statement yesterday put out by Bayo Nanuga, he did say that there was an agreement signed between the relevant people who were being owned and the federal government when they reached this 3.3 trillion naira agreement. But here we are, Mrs. Okaji, saying they're not clear. How did you reach this amount, first of all? And what is this separate from what you put out before? According to her, no fresh reconciliation has taken place since the one of March 2025, which make them reach the agreement of 4 trillion naira. And so she's asking, how then did the government arrive at 3 trillion naira? She said she spoke with GENCOs and they confirmed that after the March reconciliation, they've not met again. So how did we get these figures? So these are all the questions surrounding this statement And at the end of the day, we're still left with more questions than answers. As of yesterday, when I put out the news story talking about the amount that they plan to settle, there were even concerns about what is the methodology. Are they actually going to release the money, or are they going to release it to people and it's not going to get to who it needs to get to? Now, if the stakeholders who were supposed to be part of this agreement are even questioning how they got to this amount, then what are we to work with? Remember, according to the statement by Mr. Onaniga, there have been some disbursements already, and it's supposed to be settling out a number of things. There was a 501 billion naira bond announced by the government also earlier on, and Ekunle Olubio, president of Nigeria Consumer Protection Network, is saying that even that has yet to significantly impact the sector due to stringent disbursement conditions that Gencos must meet. And so while we are looking to breathe a sigh of relief to some extent, seeing that there is commitment, or there was some form of commitment by the federal government to clear off this legacy debt and get Nigerians back into the place where they're having power, there seem to be so many unresolved issues going on the side. But what are your thoughts about this? Would like to hear from you. Phone lines are open right away, 0809 597 4869, and on WhatsApp, 0809 993-0137. Let's talk. We are seeing commitment to some extent by the federal government to clear up the power sector legacy debt, but at the same time, there seems to be some uncertainty and also some lack of clarity as to whether this is the agreed amount, how the amount was agreed on. And remember what I said earlier on, where it said that part of the reason why we're having this liability is because there is a critical gap between what is generated and distributed and what we are paying for, which to some extent implies that we are not paying enough for power. If we were to resolve the legacy debt matter between the president and the Gencos, and they say, okay, to fix this once and for all, Nigerians get ready to pay more for power, is that something that you'd be open to doing, just so that you can see it? Let's talk again. Phone lines are open. I've got about a minute before the commercial. Maybe see if I can take one or two thoughts before we move on. I see a message here. Hello, Quintessential Somi. I have a feeling the government through discos are gearing up and planning to increase electricity tariffs. What you just read out is just an alibi to justify electricity tariff increase. Whenever you hear excuses like this, just know for sure that electricity tariff is about to be reviewed upward using their terms. Nigerians should brace themselves for another tariff increment any moment from now. Even with darkness and lack of electricity, this government would go ahead and increase electricity tariffs. There is no commitment to solve power at all. What a system. And this is from Linus in Brick City, Kubwa, Abuja. Okay. This is a comment here from Tim from Lugbe, and we're going to take it right after this timeout.
News and sports after this.
Audio Jungle.
Made. He said on May 17, 2024, 3.3 trillion naira was approved for the same purpose. In July 25th, 2024, another 4 trillion was approved to settle similar debts. There have also been other approvals in between, all targeted at addressing the same power sector liabilities. This raises a fundamental question: were the previous approvals mere announcements without execution? Or Kiani says, copied from Peter Obi's X post. Interesting. Let's take a voice note.
Good afternoon, madam, in the studio. This is Stanley T from Ido. Saying good evening to you, listeners and contributors. What are my thoughts? My sister, all this billion is for election. Forget about it. All this billion. If the president believes in these billions that they will work, he himself will be in the band A or band B or band C that we are suffering. But by the virtue of them removing themselves and using solar, they know it will not work. And they know all this money they are pulling out or getting is for election. If anybody is expecting anything, sorry, my brother. Me, I know say my enjoyment they heaven. I don't worry myself. So very soon now the light will be there. You know why it will be there? Water, rain is beginning to fall. The source of Nigerian electricity is hydro. You understand me now? They have refused to tap into the various other areas that they can generate light, like wind and sunlight. You understand? All they are after is, but Nigerian source of electricity is hydro, and there is no water in the dry season. That is why you are seeing what is happening. And very soon now, light will improve, and they will claim it is due to these billions and trillions that they are getting for themselves. My sister, any money you see now pull out is for election. It's not for any light. So don't expect anything. Don't expect any miracle. You understand? The light will improve in the next 2 or 3, 4 months now because there will be water. By next year, we'll go back to the vicious circle. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. I did mention yesterday that if at all, this 3.3 trillion naira was going to have any impact, we would not be able to tell immediately for the same reasons you just mentioned, as it will take us to getting to the period where it's dry season again before we can do a proper assessment. But let's see, we have another message here. Good afternoon, Auntie Somi. The issue here is lack of accountability and proper attitude to work. And they shouldn't even think of increasing the tariff because we're having enough on our plate. While they iron their financial differences, that is the Genco and federal government, let us enjoy light. Peace from Kubwa. Okay, good afternoon.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Abdul calling from Maitama. I don't expect the government has even this money on ground as we're talking. 3-point-something trillion. They don't have it. They share it to the opposition governors. The money they share it. And I agree with the last caller, voice note that he sent to you. You play it. Quite all right now, we are going to experience the raining. And we will get constant light. That money purposely they remove it for their own politicians because election is around the corner. And there is no even that money, 3-point-something trillion on ground in Nigeria. They have squandered the money of subsidy, they borrow money, they did all that they can. If we have 3-point-something trillion, why put it in the security? Look at what happened in Jos. Look at what happened in Kaduna. Within this week, last week, look at what is happening within some states. The issue of insecurity in Nigeria, if we didn't put more resources in it, we will not get the stability of insecurity and conflict. And who are the people that cause all these problems? The same politicians. They are the cause of the problem of insecurity. Recently, this problem that happened in Jos is not even about the headmen or bandit or whatsoever. They wanted to create problem between the two religions in Nigeria, Islam and Christianity. Before we are living fine, we don't have any problem. We are not competing in any religion. Say this religion is perfect or Islam is perfect or Christianity. No, we are all brothers keepers.
All right, Abdul.
Politicians, they are the problem of Nigeria.
All right, Abdul. So just to be clear, you are saying that.
Purposely because of that.
So you're saying that if the federal government has money, they should put it into insecurity. They shouldn't put it into power.
That is the truth. What are we going to do with life?
I mean, some people would say. Thank you, Abdul. Some people would say that part of the reason that there is insecurity at the level that you're seeing is because our homes and communities are not even powered up. Is it possible that we can be taking on the two of them at once? That's the question that I have for you. But I have to take other callers now. But interesting suggestion. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's take two more and then we'll go to the next story. Abdul started by saying the government doesn't even have the money. Well, the next story will tell you, paint a picture to you of just how much the government is willing to spend when it comes to some other things. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Somi. Dr. Lajide from Wuse State.
Welcome, sir.
This morning, has Genco told anyone that the employed is in it or they will not get the money? It's not a project. It is the money. The government has to pay the Genco for the subsidy that they are paying for the one with you. So if somebody says for election or this or that one should be distributed by Genco. The money to be given to them. Now we are talking of insecurity. To every money be diverted to insecurity. If there's any project on them, say, where are you doing this project? Why don't you put for insecurity? And yearly, billion upon trillion have been budgeted for insecurity. Do we not do another thing because of insecurity? God bless you, God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, sir. As far as the Gencos, it is not clear about who has received what or not. Right now, what they're saying is that the amount itself is still under contention. They're still saying that it is not adding up. They're asking for a reconciliation of figures by all parties. I believe they're still at that point for now. They say they want government to publish how they arrived at their figures and what components formed the figures. As according to them, they're not aware of any verification outside of the last reconciliation that was done March of last year, which put the figure at 4 trillion naira. Now, recall that even that 4 trillion naira is not what was reported as the debt owed. The debt owed was set at 6.3 trillion naira, as at the last time I went through that report. So the reconciliation process now is where they are at to say, okay, even if you're not paying 6.3 trillion naira, this is the amount that would allow us get back into operation. Joy Agadi speaking also argued that the term legacy debt has been loosely applied, saying that the liabilities extend beyond the commonly referenced 2015 to 2025 period. So as far as the Gencos, that's the conversation that they're still at. They're trying to reconcile, they're trying to organize and regularize the figures, especially as they're getting from the federal government. In terms of the monies and where it's gone to, the 3.2 trillion naira, I don't think has gotten there yet. It's probably still in the process and may not even happen until this reconciliation is done. Because I don't see the Gencos, except something else happens, starting to receive these payments until the reconciliation is done. I'm talking specifically to the 3.3 trillion naira now. Any other amounts announced as previously being disbursed by government, a different conversation for a different time. So let's take the final call on this before we go to the next story. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon, Somi.
Welcome.
Yeah, my name is CJ.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Please, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Somi, the essence of settling the debt. Is it not Nigeria to see light?
Yes.
All the English they are speaking, this and that. The result of all this English they are speaking is just to us to see light at the end of the day. It's not so. Hello?
Yes, it is. Go ahead, CJ.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Hello?
CJ, I'm here. Okay.
Hello?
CJ, you don't seem to be hearing me, but if you can hear me now, that is what we want. We, the Nigerians, we want to see light, whether the matter is 3.3 trillion naira or 4 trillion naira or not. But you see the thing about these headlines sometimes, the callers, at least two callers yesterday said, as much as this is encouraging, we should have cautious optimism. Now, how cautious your optimism should be is dependent on what some of these other updates concerning this story is saying, so that it would not just be one of those things we discuss about and then we move on, and by this time next year we're back to square one. If we should be optimistic, which I'm hoping that we can be, then we should have the full picture, which is why I'm still getting into some of all of these, all of these angles around this story today. But we will shift gears for a little bit. Let's take the next story and then get back to you and your thoughts. The federal government has approved 135.22 billion naira in the 2026 budget for what it described as electoral adjudication and post-election provision. In short, the federal government is anticipating lawsuits post-2027, and this 135 billion naira is for adjudicating the election lawsuits that they expect will come about. Yes, that is the story. This is a fresh multi-billion naira commitment to managing disputes and obligations that typically trail Nigeria's elections. Some would say forward thinking, and kudos to them. The provision was contained in the House of Representatives order paper for March 31st, 2026, which carried the report on the 2026 appropriation bill. And the Punch observed that the allocation was captured under what they call service-wide votes. Now, what are these, you would ask? It's like the miscellaneous. That's long story short. A centrally managed pool of funds used by federal government to finance obligations not tied to a specific ministry, department, or agency. That is what these service-wide votes are called. And Punch noted that this very, very lump sum of 135.22 billion was set aside for post-election provisions, especially as it has to do with disputes, adjudication of court cases, and the rest. Now, service-wide votes are regarded as government's contingency or general purpose fund within the budget, which is why I used the term miscellaneous earlier on. It's been described as a central provision used to cover expenditure that cut across multiple agencies, including unforeseen obligations, national commitments, and liabilities that cannot be easily assigned to a single institution. In some cases, the fund also accommodates items that require further approval or are not fully determined at the time of budget preparation. Now, within this framework, 135.22 billion naira provision for post-election matters indicates that the government expects ongoing fiscal pressure from election-related legal disputes, settlements, and administrative processes. Further analysis of this appropriation document showed that the provision sits within the broader Consolidated Revenue Fund charges, reinforcing its classification as a centrally managed obligation rather than a direct allocation to any single agency. Now, just reading that out, again, after having researched this and studied this news headline, I'm thinking if it's not particularly managed by a particular ministry or any single agency and is deemed a centrally managed obligation, the first question that comes to mind is who then handles or who determines the disbursement of this centrally managed allocation? Now, the budget schedule showed that the total CRF charges stood at 3.7 trillion, meaning that electoral adjudication and post-election line alone accounts for about 3.65% of that segment of spending under this Consolidated Revenue Fund charges. This allocation also comes alongside a much larger 1 trillion naira statutory transfer to INEC in the 2026 fiscal proposal. That means there is 1 trillion naira set aside for INEC, and then there is this 135.22 billion naira set aside, managed by the central, Central Revenue Fund that is not specific to any institution or agency. So you can, if you will, add both of them together as monies that have been set aside for 2027 election. Now, 1 trillion naira to INEC, and then this additional sum. The Punch also observed that INEC is the largest recipient in this category, accounting for 21% of the total statutory transfers of 4.8 trillion naira. Now, statutory transfers are compulsory allocations backed by law and the Constitution, paid directly to government institutions such as INEC, the National Assembly, and the National Judicial Council. And these funds are released as a first-line charge from the same CRF that we've talked about and not subject to direct executive control. Okay, so to some extent, my initial question has been answered about who manages that fund. Not direct executive control, maybe dotted line. But again, the question of who exactly handles it still remains unanswered. So agencies receiving statutory transfers have a degree of financial autonomy and are guaranteed funding to carry out constitutionally mandated functions, particularly those tied to governance, democracy, and institutional oversight. Now, of course, you can imagine that opposition parties are questioning this allocation. Going back to you now, let's get your thoughts on it before we come back to hear what they're saying. The phone lines are open. What are your thoughts? 135 billion naira for 2027 election lawsuits as expected by the federal government. Another question perhaps may be, with the way everything is shaping up for 2027, if, for example, ADC does not meet up with the time, and that's a big if, I don't know, because our next story is also looking at the alternatives, but it's pretty much looking like a one-party setup going into 2027. So what expected lawsuits are we likely to have? Is it lawsuits from people within the APC? Let's hear from you, 0809-597-4869, and on WhatsApp, 0809-993-0137. Good afternoon. Hello?
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
Abdul back again from Maitama. This is the situation on ground on the respect of 120 something billion
35 billion.
for 85, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is the sign of this government. Even before the election, before the 2027, is signaling that is the government that has corruption in their own front door. They are ready to spend money for any judiciary that they are going to back them. Right now, we are not even sure of the opposition party right now that they are going to contest with them in 2027. So this government, we don't have in this present administration. 8 years of former President Muhammadu Buhari, may his soul rest in perfect peace. This government, they are together with him, they are the same with him, but they castigate him. They are in the same party, they are in the same government. And look at what is happening on ground. Is that the change that the APC government, the civil Nigeria of change, that Nigeria is going to recognize in the international community?
All right,
So,
Abdul.
we are just wasting our own time. Thank you very much. Keep doing what you are doing and do it very well. I don't have any confidence in this government.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes, welcome.
Hello?
I can hear you, please. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Marshall calling
What?
from Zimbabwe.
Welcome, Marshall.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, please. Proceed.
Okay. So, they are talking about releasing money for extra judicial issues, from what I'm getting.
It's post-election lawsuits.
Yes, lawsuit now. That's what I'm saying. They are anticipating it, but this is where corruption comes in. How can you give me a job, appoint me for a job, pay me for the job, and still set aside money that I will use in case I don't perform my job? Why is Nigeria like this? That is where corruption sets in. You give me money for a job, you're still setting aside money in case. What happens to the money given to INEC? And you're telling me that INEC might not give me a good election, and you're putting money in case those that will go to court. Why? And that is where it starts. So we already know that people will go to court, and we are expecting it. So what happens to the humongous amount given to INEC? So this is very wrong, and this is very unfair to the Nigerian finance, the finance that we are looking for. We can't be doing things like this. If INEC does not conduct a good and free and fair election, they should be the ones to go to the lawsuit with their own money, part of the money. And that is how it should be. So that's my take.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Somi,
Yes, please.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Victor.
Okay.
Who is advising this our government now? Somi Biko, how can you set aside money for post-election wahala when you are already creating a one-party state? To me, what is happening? Is it that we don't know what to do with our intellect and our brain? Look at the medical doctors; they don't want to strike today. So what is happening? It pains me when I get things like this. What is happening? Somebody should answer me, please. This is bad. Bad. How can you preempt your future? So that means that INEC cannot conduct a credible election. To me, Sifa, I reserve my comment.
Okay. Understand that. Thank you very much. Just to mention, though, this is a budgetary allocation. And if what we've seen, especially last year's budget, is anything to go by, budgetary allocations do not necessarily translate to disbursement of funds. You saw budgetary allocations across various ministries, health being included, transportation, and so many of them. You saw that at the budget defense. So just to say that this is a budget allocation, it remains to be seen whether the money will actually be dispensed, and that will be seen post 2027 elections, right? Right? Just putting that out there, because we've seen that there are always gaps between what is appropriated and what is disbursed at the end of the day. So just saying that is worthy of mention. Let's get back to you then. Good afternoon. Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome. Hello.
Hello?
Your line is not very clear, sir.
I can hear you.
Okay, what's your name, please?
Hello?
What is your name and where are you calling from?
Okay, my name is Charles. I'm calling from Abuja.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. In as much as this government has budgeted, that kind of budget line, so they must be the one thing we should know that this taxpayers' money is not any person for the taxpayers, it's our money. That's why they are doing everything to make sure they make sure we pay tax, we pay this and pay any government thing we do now, we will pay. But any government services are more costlier than public service now in Nigeria. Any service government enters to you now, they pay everything. And this is because they want to use our money. They do whatever they like. So that's why anyhow they like it. They don't take the cost to pay this tax. They don't think about it. We don't have any say in how they use our tax. Because they don't ask us how you can use this money. We are going to use it. What do you say about it? What they do is to tax us. How we squeeze our neck and get the money and use it anyhow they want. This is unfair to Nigerians. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We've got room for 2 more calls before the news. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Somi. My name is Paul, and I'm calling from Nottingham, UK.
Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. In as much as it's a budgetary allocation, the fund has not been disbursed yet. That tells you where their interest lies. When it comes to election issue, for water, for health, for education, the money might not be disbursed. But when it comes to election matter in Nigeria, talking from experience and antecedent and their track record, we surely release that money. Even if all the money is not released to conduct the real election, when it comes to litigation, Nigerian politicians will release that money. And that now tells you that how are we now conducting an election in the first place? That shows that the people, opinion does not matter. It doesn't the election result that bring anybody to power. If this humongous amount is being budgeted for litigation, that means the court just determine who become who rules us in Nigeria. So instead of wasting that kind of money to conduct election, they should just give it to the judiciary and let judiciary choose for us who will be our leader, instead of putting people through this pain called so-called election. I think they are failing. They need to think outside the box. How many litigation do you hear outside country? I mean, outside Nigeria, apart from Nigeria, in any other country? How many litigation do you hear? US conducted the so-called US that we usually compare our democracy with. They conducted election of that brought Trump in. How many litigation did you hear from them? They will not copy that and come and tell us, but they will be copying Baba's example and be comparing us with US when it favored them. But when it did not favor them, they keep mute. God will help us. Thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you contesting come 2027, Ojo?
Not yet. I'm still consulting.
Ah, okay. I wanted to know whether you're expecting litigation ahead too, so that we can start to get clarity from you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome back to GT.
Mm.
Yeah, litigation cannot be ruled out. Definitely, some people must go to court after the election. But what I think about that is that the money budgeted may actually being the total money that will be spent at the end of the day. But in as much as that kind of amount is being budgeted, I think that there's still a lot of things that is wrong with our electioneering, and we need to look into it. Because if you have other matter that is facing us, that we need to resolve, that is begging for urgent attention in terms of money, still budgeting that kind of amount for litigation is not a good thing for us. Now, on the issue of the GENCOs and the federal government, my advice for the both parties, they should just try and put this issue behind them. For GENCOs, we want them to appreciate the level or the step at which federal governments are stake. Able to resolve, okay, we are owing you people 14 trillion naira. But what we can pay now, or we can settle with now, whether direct cash or indirect cash is included, like as we edit from the newspaper this morning. So I think GENCO should take that. Because this legacy debt we are talking about is not only Tinubu, and I don't even think Tinubu is paying up to 5% of that total amount as he came to power. So they should just accept that and negotiate with the government when they are going to get the remaining balance.
But I mean, the term that was used, Ojo, is full and final payment. So based on that, you can't blame them for saying no. Let's resolve. Let's get a little closer to the amount. The term that was used is full and final payment, not part payment.
They can still negotiate further with the government.
Okay.
They can still negotiate further with the government, but that one doesn't mean that they should reject what is being given to them. Like Yoruba do say, even when you don't agree with the amount the person wants to pay, you first of all collect that one first. Then you continue with the argument.
Okay.
Since 2013, that this debt has been piling up. How many presidents we have before now? How many of them have been able to even say that this is the amount you want to pay?
Okay.
Now that you have the opportunity that somebody says, okay, I'm ready to cover this amount, you should gladly take it, then come again to begin to argue for balance.
Okay.
Yes, they have the right to argue from 6 trillion to 4 trillion, from 4 trillion to 3.3. It doesn't make any sense. But at least let them appreciate and take it.
Okay.
The doctors are asking for their own. Lecturers are asking for their own. We have a lot of them for federal government to settle. So for them to have that amount, at least a plus for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ojo, the next president. This one here, I can't see. Okay, Eric. Eric says, good afternoon. People always complain if the government does. If the government did not do, they will complain. And he's asked, what do you people want? Okay. Obedient Man Emeka from NNPC Towers. Good evening, Somi. If you believe in this government, you can believe in anything. Which power? I beg you, he says. Is it not this government that installed solar system in their comfort zones and seat of power? Then what are they telling us? Just imagine Donald Trump signing in this money just to install solar system in Washington, then leaving the good people of the U.S. in total darkness. This is for those who are quick to compare Nigeria to U.S. So may I expect more of this because of election. As for me, I have said that the president doesn't have anything to offer. Get that clear. Okay. The voice note here.
Somi, good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel. I'm talking from Nube. This electricity debt, the government is rolling out numbers and the Gencos is disputing. Well, this is just another story. I want to tell us another story again. So as to see why they have to increase the electricity tariff again. I mean, the government is just head-bent on, squeezing our blood out of Nigeria. They don't even look back. They don't even, no pretense. There's no pretense of good intention in any time about this, for this government. It's always guessing how to mop up the money from the people. I don't even know what they use this money for. Is it for election or for just for themselves? Well, we're watching them. Please tell Anajide if you call, let him calm down. Well, he'll not be fight. If he's supporting government, not be say he's going to fight everybody. Thank you.
Good evening, Somi. For me, I see no much difference between the 4 trillion and the 3.3 trillion naira. The difference is like 700,000 naira or so. Let them collect it now and leave argument. This is from Felix from Kado Estate here in Abuja. I've got room for a voice note before the news.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
You see, matters you listen to on this radio station most times will even make you laugh or cry. I don't even know what to do. How can you allocate that type of money for an event that you know? In my opinion, they should just carry that money together with the money they give to INEC to conduct election. Let them just forget about the election. Let him come back and rule even how many times that he want to be in office. Let them transfer like 1 million to each Nigerian's account. If you do that, the money will go around and the remaining one will still be for them. Let them just stop wasting our time that there is election when we already know that they will. If somebody who was not in power will rig his way to power, think of when he's already there.
Okay, just take very quickly the words from the opposition parties. Of course, ADC and PDP frontline, the head of that one. ADC actually speaking said, there's nothing wrong. INEC is well within their right to make this provision. It says it's normal for them to prepare for post-election litigation. Noting that the electoral body is often joined in legal disputes arising from election. But for ADC, the concern is the amount provided for. PDP had a complete opposition to it, and we'll get to all of that when we come back from the news. Stay with us.
In the comfort of your home, on your way to work, in the midst of your daily activities. Your Let's Talk station is here to keep you informed. Only on your number one for talk, 95.1 Nigeria Info. Let's Talk. Let's Talk.